Hi guys, this is Billy from Discovery. Today we're going to look at accounts payable payments. The first thing you need to do is navigate to the Manage AP Payments Springboard tile. The Springboard tile and the functions within are only going to be available to those who are authorized to it, so you need to set up your authorizations before proceeding. So this takes us to our Manage AP Payments NGV. In here, we're going to be able to do single payments. So paying with a single check, paying with a funds transfer, doing an invoice offset. The check run checks will show up on this NGV, but we do not run check runs from this NGV. That is done at a different Springboard tile. So today we're just going to be looking at paying with the single check, paying with the funds transfer, and paying with the offset. So down here is a list of all the payments that have ever been made. To create a new single payment, we're going to go Create. This opens up the Create NTA. The first option here, we decide whether we're going to pay by the check, a funds transfer, or an invoice offset. The next dropdown is our supplier number. So if you hit the dropdown, it'll bring up a list. You can type in the first few letters of the supplier and it will narrow it down to that, or you can type in the number if you know the number. Once you select a supplier, it's going to go ahead and automatically fill everything based on how the supplier is set up in the vendor master or supplier master. If you have a supplier that uses multiple currencies, it's going to use the default here, but you can switch it to whatever currency you want. The bank accounts that are available will be dependent on what's set up within that currency. It's going to default for the check date to be today, but you can post date it, whatever was within your GL rules in your tailoring. Usually it's about 90 days in the future. And then down here we have a payment reference. So in this case, this supplier is set up to use EFT. So if we're doing an EFT payment, rather than burning a check number, it's creating a payment reference. If in a situation where you wanted to actually pay by check, we're just going to tick on the print check option. As you can see, the payment reference went away and the starting check number came up. For suppliers that have nothing to do with EFT, it will automatically show up like this, where it'll say print check and there will be a check mark and the EFT will be grayed out because it's not applicable for that supplier. Okay, and then down here we have the select all due. So if we turn this on and put a date on, it will pick all of the invoices that are within that due date as being ready to be paid. This is very similar to what is in the existing software. So once you've filled out this, which is basically just our information about the supplier and the check, we're going to go to select invoices. This is where we'll select which invoices we want to pay. So here we can see the due date, the invoice number, how much is left owing, what our payment amount is going to be, the remit to warning. So if you tick the tick box, it's going to put the whole thing for payment. If you only want to pay a portion of it, you can do that just by clicking into the payment amount box and typing in whatever you want. On any invoices where there is unavailable for payment, so the supplier hasn't been approved, the invoice hasn't been approved, the invoice is held, the whole supplier is held, you're going to see a Y here saying that it's held from payment. I can't tick on it. I can't click in here. It prevents you from paying it until you've resolved whatever is happening in here. So in this case, this individual invoice has been held for payment. So you'll have to go to Manage AP Invoices, drill into that invoice, and find out why it's being held and remove the hold. If we go over here, we see the remit to names and addresses. If you have a remit to address that it's different, so you've overridden it and the addresses are different, it'll say that here, that the address is a little bit different. So we can see here, the name here is supplier 1000, but the remit to name on this one is Canadian vendor 0. The address is a little bit different. We can see down here compared to normal. You cannot put two invoices that have different remit to names or addresses on the same payment. So they have to be separated because somebody has taken the time to override the defaults. So you have to do two separate payments in that situation. So once you have this the way you want, and the payment total will be totaled down here. Once this is good, you can just go complete create. If you want to cancel this because you don't actually want to make it a payment, you can go cancel create. And if you want to just kind of hold this until later, you can go suspend create. I don't recommend suspend create because if you have a transaction that's suspended, nobody else can do a payment until it has been resolved. So this is not a great way to hold things. You either want to go ahead and complete or cancel at this. You really don't want to suspend unless you really have a question that you need to resolve before you complete it, because it kind of will hold everybody else up. So I'm going to complete create. So it brings us to this, we call it a USF. You can either return back to the screen by clicking this, or you can continue forward. It has continue entering payments, which means that it will just reopen the NGA open, and I can do like another check if I wanted to. If I don't want to do another payment, if this is just a one-off and I want to return back to the NGV, then I can untick this and it will return me to the NGV. Okay, so here's the payment we just created right here. Now we're going to go ahead and create a funds transfer. So you do it the exact same way. We're just going to go create. Instead of check, I'm going to switch to funds transfer. I'm going to pick my supplier. I'm going to use the same one. Okay, in this case, you can't print by check. It's totally grayed out. You'll never be able to get a check. We have a payment reference here. This payment reference is just automatically created. It's a combination of today's date and the time it was created. You can delete this and put whatever actual reference you got from your banking institution here if you want. But everything works the exact same way. So you're just going to select your invoice. And $50 on this one. And go complete create. Okay, so I'm going to leave this ticked on so we can see what that looks like. I'm going to go continue. So when the continue is ticked on, it opens it to a blank NTA. We can see our payment reference in the background there, but it didn't take us back to the NGV. It opens it right back up to the create. So we could do another payment if we wanted. So in this case, I'm going to go through an invoice offset. So we're just going to go select invoice offset. I'm going to select my supplier here. So in this case, it doesn't really want a bank account because we're not actually making a payment. This transaction has to come out to zero. It can't have an amount on it. It gives it a payment reference, which again, you can override if you want. I'm going to go to the select invoices tab, and in here, you just pick out the two like that. Okay, and then we're going to go complete create. We notice it's totaled to zero. It has to total to zero. You're going to get an error if you try to do it and not total it to zero. So there's our invoice offset there. You can see the description of what it is here. So if we right click on these, our options on the right click are view. This opens up the NTA in view only mode, so I can see all the information on it. I just can't make any changes at all. You can void a payment. So if it gets lost in the mail or you made a mistake and need to redo it, we can go right click void and it will undo the transaction. The invoices will be available to be selected on a check run or another payment if you void it. We do this one here. So you're just going to go complete void, continue. Okay, so now it's in voided status. Those invoices that were on this check will be available for payment again. Resume is if you have a suspended transaction. Again, we don't recommend a suspended transaction because it prevents anybody else from making payments or that sort of thing. So if you do need to resume a suspended transaction, you just right click resume suspended transaction, and then you're going to either complete it or cancel it to make it go away. You'll know which transactions are suspended because they'll have a little lock here, and there's also a view up here, suspended transactions, if you can't find it easily. We also have expanded view. So the expanded view, Nacreous grid view, has more columns that are available than on the manage AP payments. If you click on it with a right click, it will take you to the expanded view filtered for this payment reference. You can also go expanded view here, and this will take you to the expanded view for every record. So if you're looking for everything, you go here. If you're looking for it filtered for a specific record, you go here. The audit works the same way. Our audit view is an NGV that has information about all of the additions, voids, deletes, any modifications you make. It has the date, time, and who made those changes. So if you're kind of wanting to track down who did what, when, you can go to the audit. This one will be filtered for this payment reference. And then if you want to see every change that's ever been made, you can go to this button here and click it. If you want to get information about the payment that was the invoices that are included on the payment, you can go payment details. This is going to open up another NGV that has the payments on it. So there it is there. And then if reprint is only possible when it's been paid by check. So if it's invoice offset or a funds transfer, you're not going, or it's paid by EFT, you're not going to be able to do a reprint. If it's just a regular paid by check, you'll be able to do a right-click reprint on it. And that is pretty much it for accounts payable pay now. Thank you for your time today. And if you have further questions or need some help, you can contact Discovery's implementers using the above email address.